What were you told by the professionals at the time?
I was told that parents don't make good therapists, and that the primary evidence-based approach was something called verbal behavior analysis, or IBI or ABA. There's a number of different words for it, but essentially it's a behavioral approach. And so we went down that path, and it wasn't all bad by any means. At the first, we were in that program for about a year and a half. We had wonderful, lovely therapists come to our home every morning for a few hours and work with my son. And he was learning things like his numbers and his letters. And we were excited about that. And at the same time, I still wasn't able to sit down and do something with him. Like, I couldn't sit down and do a puzzle with him. He would run away. So that was the first year, I guess.
And when you talk about a behavioral approach, what does that mean?
Essentially, they would encourage him to participate in something by rewarding him with something. So TV time, for example. So first you come do this activity, then you get TV time like over and over and over again within a 3-hour session. Sometimes they would use things like candy as a incentive. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional just thinking back to those days. Yeah.
Yeah. So for 3 hours, he was encouraged to join in on something and then given a reward, then pulled away from that reward, taught a little bit more, reward again, and that would go on for the whole 3 hours. Is that the idea?
Yeah, basically the idea is externally motivating him to do the things that he wasn't intrinsically motivated to do himself.
Cool. And then you were discovering that you still couldn't do basic things like doing a puzzle with him or household things, like, and engaging him. Is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Without then providing a reward.
Yes.
Gotcha. So it became, I would imagine, it's exhausting for parents because then you almost have to always up the ante each time, don't you? With that kind of system, you've always got to come up with the next best reward, which can be tiring. Yes. Go ahead, Lisa.
Well, there's so much to be said about that, and that it does develop a lot, could be a large skill base for these children, but without the true everyday life experience to help them develop the motivations to want to function in more dynamic and distracting environments, it does not translate well to real world functioning.
I'm appreciating that you mentioned that because that was the other thing that I could see as a limiting factor to that. If this particular method works in a particular situation, does it generalize? And what I'm hearing from you is that it generally doesn't. It
can be very difficult. I think that it's more rare for a child to develop the social nuances and the know-how in order to be able to relate to people as we are required to do in the 21st century. No longer is it about what you know. We can Google anything. And so it's really more about how you problem solve and how you relate to other people that is going to translate to true world success. And so doing tabletop activities and developing and having a program that focuses on skill acquisition, it is going to have some shortcomings.
So what did you do next?
I started noticing, I guess, the things that Lisa was just describing. So my whole experience with autism and parenting, it started to lead me to get really clear on what do I want for this child? Like, do I want him to know his numbers? Is that what I want to spend 3 hours a day on? And I kept coming back to, I want to have a relationship with this kid. I want to be able to connect with him and do things with him. And again, after a year and a half, I still felt like I didn't have that. So that was one big piece for me. The second piece was I would see the activities that were presented, and I kept having this question come up for me, like, don't you need to problem solve to be able to figure that out? Like, does it? We would be memorizing he would be memorizing sequences, for example, and I kept thinking, in the real world, don't you have to problem solve to figure out how to get which comes first, your boots or your hat or your coat? You need to think, right? And so I would ask those types of questions, and I wasn't getting the answers that really resonated for me, and I was becoming clearer and clearer that these were my priorities, being able to connect with him and having a little person that could problem solve and think for himself.